and welcome back. I'm Toby, aka the Crocheteer, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this Christmas tree. This neat little Christmas tree took me about 20 to 25 minutes to make, and I'm going to show you exactly how for free. All I ask in return is that you hit the like button and subscribe. Also share this to anyone else who you think might want to make a little Christmas tree. To crochet this Christmas tree, you are going to need green wool, brown wool, a 4mm crochet hook, and a pair of scissors. We're going to start with the trunk of the tree. So, getting our brown wool, we're going to tie a slip knot and put the loop on the hook. We're now going to chain 2. Now, we're going to do 6 single crochets into the first chain. That should leave you with a circle. Now, we're going to increase each of the single crochets. So we're going to do 6 increase stitches. So to increase, you do 1 single crochet, and then you do another single crochet in the same hole. So that's 1 increase. We're now going to do 5 more. And you should now have 12 stitches going around in a circle. Now we're going to start working up the trunk. To do this, you're going to insert your hook into the next stitch, but only the top half of the next stitch. So, instead of picking up both loops of the stitch, we're only going to put it in the top half, so you only have 1 strand of wool around your crochet hook. And then you're going to do a normal single crochet. You're going to repeat that 11 more times until you come back to the beginning of the row. And now you should be able to see there is a ridge around the bottom circle, and that is going to come in handy later when it comes to standing the tree up. Now we're going to do 3 more rows of single crochet. These stitches are going to be normal single crochet stitches where you pick up both loops at the top of the stitch. If you want your tree to be a little bit taller, then you can do more than 3 rows, and if you want it to be shorter, you can do less than 3 rows. It's up to you, but just keep on doing single crochet rows until you think the tree is as tall as you would like it to be. I'm going to do 3 rows. and there are my 3 rows. Now I'm going to do 1 slip stitch into the next stitch. So we simply insert the hook, pull a loop through and pull that loop through the one on the hook. That means that the end of the row is nice and smooth. Now getting our scissors, we're going to cut it with a fair bit of string on the end because we're going to use this wool to sew the trunk onto the main part of the tree. So I've left about 2 fingers length there. Going to pull the wool through and pull it tight, and that is the trunk of the tree complete. To make the main part of the tree, I'm going to be using green wool. If you want to make a different coloured tree, for example a white tree, you can use a different colour, but I'm using green and we are still using a 4mm crochet hook. Now we're going to start this off the same as the base. We're going to do a slip knot and then 2 chains. Now we're going to do 6 single crochets into the first chain. Now we're going to work around the 6 stitches we have and we're going to increase each of the stitches. So we're going to do 6 increase stitches. Now we're going to work around and increase again. This time we're going to do 1 single crochet followed by an increase stitch. And we're going to repeat those 2 stitches 6 times. So we're going to do 1 single crochet and then an increase stitch. We're going to do another single crochet and then an increase stitch. And repeat those 2 stitches in that pattern until we get to the end of the row, so 4 more times. You should now have 18 stitches around the circle. We're now going to do 1 more increase row before we start working upwards. This time you're going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase stitch, and you're going to do the pattern of those 3 stitches 6 times. So that's 1 single crochet, another single crochet in the next stitch, and then an increase in the next stitch. And repeat that pattern 5 more times. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and an increase. And you should now have 24 stitches around the circle. That makes up the base of the leaf part of the tree. Now we're going to work up in a triangle to get the conical shape of a tree. Here we have the base, and you can see how the tree will sit over the base. Similarly to the base, we're only going to work into the top half of the stitch. So you can see that we have a bottom and a top half. We are just going to insert the hook into the top half and do a single crochet. When we're doing this top part of the tree, from this point on, we are only going to work in the top half of the stitch. Never pick up both parts of the stitch. I will remind you periodically, but that is your warning. Always work in the top half of the stitch only. That is going to become particularly important once we get to the top of the cone, and you will see why. So, for this next row, we're going to work only in the top half, and we're going to single crochet round one row, which is 24 stitches. And that is the first row completed. So, for this second row, again, we're only working in the top half of the stitch. We are going to do 10 single crochets. And now we are going to do a decrease stitch. So again, only working in the top half, we're going to insert the hook, pull a loop through, and then we're going to insert the hook again into the next stitch, pull a loop through, and pull the wool through all 3 of these loops. That means we've just turned 2 stitches into 1 stitch. We're now going to do another 10 single crochets. And we're now going to do another decrease stitch. And that is our first row of decreasing. Now we're going to do 9 single crochets. And we are going to do another decrease stitch. And now we're going to do another 9 single crochets. and another decrease stitch. You should start to see the tree decreasing, but only slightly. Now, we've decreased these two sides where we start and halfway across our row twice, and now we're going to switch it up and do the other side so it remains a nice circle. To do this, we're going to single crochet 4. We're going to do another decrease stitch, and now we're going to single crochet 8. We're now going to do another decrease stitch and 4 single crochets. We're now going to do 7 single crochets, and a decrease stitch. And we're going to do another 7 single crochets. Followed by a decrease stitch. We are now going to do 3 single crochets, and a decrease stitch. And now we're going to do 6 single crochets. And a decrease stitch. Now we're going to do 3 more single crochets. My ball of wool just ran away, but I have got it again, and now we can carry on. We're now going to do 5 single crochets, and a decrease stitch. And we're going to do 5 more single crochets. And a decrease stitch. Now you will notice we're starting to have a very small hole at the top, meaning we're coming near the end. There you can see the stalk and the tree and how they're going to look when put together, except the tree will become a bit wider once we've finished. At this point, you can start adding in a single crochet row in between the decrease rows. This will increase the height of your tree. However, I prefer having a more conical but short tree, so I'm not going to add in those rows. If you wanted to, you would just do one single crochet row in between each of the next rows that I'm going to tell you about. For this next row, we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease. Then we're going to do 4 single crochets and a decrease stitch. And we're going to do 2 single crochets. Now that the hole is getting considerably small, it's time to stuff the tree. Now, I didn't mention at the beginning you'd need stuffing, but you will need stuffing. That was my bad. I'm going to pull this loop nice and big so it doesn't unravel, and then I'm going to work the stuffing in with my fingers. Make sure it gets right down to the bottom, and also make sure your stuffing isn't too clumpy, because clumpy stuffing will result in a Christmas tree that's just a bit lumpy, really. So if you want to ensure that, just kind of pull it apart a bit. It increases the volume and separates the lumps. Stuffing the tree will increase its size as you put pressure from the inside. Now, I've stuffed that quite solidly because I'm not going to get another chance to stuff it, so I will gradually move some of that stuffing up to the end once we've finished crocheting the tree. So now we're going to continue to the top of the tree. We're going to do 3 single crochets and a decrease stitch. And we're going to do 3 more single crochets and a decrease stitch. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease stitch. We're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease stitch. Now we're going to do 1 single crochet. That brings us to the end of that row, and as you can see, the tree is definitely coming to a spike at the end. We're now going to do 1 single crochet and a decrease stitch, and then we're going to do another decrease stitch. And that brings us to the top of the Christmas tree. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to pull my loop nice and big again. I'm just going to use the hook to pull some of that stuffing up to the end to make sure it's nice and evenly stuffed. There we go. Now, as you can see, because we've only been working in the top half of the stitch, we have ridges running all the way up the tree, which in itself makes it look more like a Christmas tree. However, we're going to make this Christmas tree a lot more 3D, as if it has branches sticking out. To do this, we're going to work from the top. We're going to do 1 chain. We're going to flip the tree over and insert the hook into the bottom half of the last single crochet we did. We're then going to do a single crochet. Now, going into the next stitch, we're again going to insert the hook into the bottom half. This time we're going to do an increase stitch. We're going to insert the hook into the bottom half, and we're going to do a normal single crochet. And for the next stitch, again the bottom half, and we're doing an increase stitch. Now that is all of the stitches which have 2 sides to them. Now we're simply going to work around the ridge. So here you can see is the beginning of the ridge for me. is this loop here. So we're going to pick up that one loop and do a single crochet. We're now going to go into the next loop and we're going to do an increase stitch. Into the next one, and we're going to do a single crochet, and then we're going to go into the next stitch and do an increase stitch. Now you can see the pattern. We're doing one single crochet and one increase stitch. We're going to keep doing this all the way down, and these ridges should swirl around, so you won't have to change rows. You will just gradually work your way around and down the tree. So we'll do one more. That is one normal single crochet and one increase stitch. So repeat that until you get to the bottom of the tree. And now we have finished working around, we're going to do a slip stitch up into the row above, going on the swirl. So if you look at where the end of the row we've just done lines up with the one above, I'm going to insert the hook from behind and do a slip stitch. Now we're going to cut the wool, pull the loop out, pull it nice and tight, and pull that bit of wool into the tree. Now you can work these leaves downwards so they don't point up, or you can leave them pointing up if you like them pointing up. If you stretch the tree out, you will see they come apart and it looks like a Christmas tree. So now all we have to do is sew the base on. And this is quite self-explanatory. I'm going to stuff the base a little bit. And then just work the wool in and out of the base of the tree. And now the trunk is sewn on, so there's just one more thing I'm going to show you to help the tree stand up. But before I do, hit that like button and subscribe for the free tutorial that I have provided you. Now, this base is relatively flat because of the ridge that we put around it. However, we're going to make that ridge bigger so the tree stands up better. To do this, we're going to insert the hook in any of them, it doesn't really matter which. And we're simply going to slip stitch around the base. So inserting it into the ridge, we're going to do a slip stitch in each. Now you want to make these stitches relatively loose so it doesn't pull the crochet tight. So try and do them nice and loose and it'll make sure that the base remains flat. So we're going to work all the way around the base. And now we're going to cut the wool when you get to the end, so when you reach the beginning where you started, and we're going to pull the ends of the wool in. We're going to do the same with the bit of wool that we used to sew the trunk on. And here we have our finished Christmas tree. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Share it with anyone you think would also like to make their own Christmas tree. And I wish you a very Merry Christmas.